Tonight I'm making a Christmas Yule log cake, and this is done within several different steps. First, starting off with the chocolate sponge cake. You'll take 4 eggs and you'll separate them, the egg yolks from the egg whites, into 2 separate bowls. I'm taking the egg whites to my stand mixer. You can use a hand mixer if you have that. You will beat these egg whites until they start forming soft peaks, and this will take a little while. Once they start forming soft peaks, you'll add in about 1/4 cup of sugar gradually. And once it's all in there, you're going to let it beat and keep going until it starts forming stiff peaks. Stiff peaks means it won't fall back down once you lift the beater out. To the bowl with the 4 egg yolks, you will add another 1/4 cup of sugar and then start beating that until they appear pale and thick. I just used my whisk and let it go for about a minute or so. Once it became thick and pale in color, I added vanilla extract, and I don't measure that. I measure it with my heart. Then stirred that in, gave it a good stir. And then I set that to the side and grabbed another bowl and put in 1/3 cup of flour, 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. It would be good to sift these together, but I don't have a sifter. So I just whisked it together, got it all incorporated, mixed in really well, and then gradually added that into the egg yolk mixture that I had set aside. Got that all mixed in. That pretty much created the chocolate batter for the sponge cake. Once that was all incorporated, I added in the egg white mixture and kind of folded that in with my spatula because you don't want it to deflate. I did end up switching to another bowl because it was too full in that one. Again, just mixed it all together just until everything was incorporated. And then onto a cookie sheet or a jelly roll pan, I had a parchment sheet of paper on there and added this sponge cake mixture onto it, and then I spread it out as evenly as possible. And it is going to be a thin cake, so it won't take very long in the oven at all. I did have my oven preheated already to 350 degrees. Once it was evenly spread out, I put it in for about 12 to 15 minutes, just until it was done. Next, you'll take a kitchen towel and spread some powdered sugar on it very liberally because you do not want this cake to stick to your towel. Then while it is still hot, you'll flip the cake out onto that towel. Be careful when pulling back the parchment paper so that the cake does not tear. Once the parchment paper has been removed from the cake, while the cake is still hot, roll the towel up within the cake. This will help it for whenever it cools down, it will roll back without cracking. While the cake was cooking, I had cleaned up my mixing bowl and I stuck that in the freezer for during that time frame. I'm now going to start on the filling. So I'm taking that chilled mixing bowl and I am adding 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, and some vanilla. And I'm going to beat that until it has stiff peaks form. And she wanted in on the mix. Now that the stiff peaks have formed, I'm taking that out and I'm going to unroll my cake now, very carefully still, and I'm going to spread that filling onto that cake. You'll want to leave about 1/2 inch on each side so that way it doesn't seep out. Once the filling has been evenly spread, carefully start to roll your cake back without the towel, being careful not to let it tear or anything. And once that's done, you'll want to wrap it up in some plastic wrap. Be very careful when transferring that cake from the counter to the pan. Once it has been transferred from the counter to the pan, go ahead and wrap that up in this plastic wrap. Make sure all of the ends are closed up. And then I refrigerated that for about an hour so that way the filling could set up. And my daughter was tired and ready for a nap at this point. Now I'm starting on the chocolate buttercream for the cake. To my bowl, I am adding a stick of softened unsalted butter, 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, a couple of tablespoons of heavy whipping cream, and some vanilla, measured with my heart, of course. Once everything was added, I started my mixer, and I'm just going to let this go until it becomes smooth and fluffy. And I did end up needing to add more heavy whipping cream, but I only added a little at a time just until it became the consistency that I wanted. Once it came to the consistency that I wanted, I took it off, and it was time to go ahead and frost this cake. I took the cake out of the refrigerator and unwrapped it, and I'm cutting this cake at a diagonal. This is optional, it can be left alone, but this helps with the presentation. Now I'm spreading the chocolate buttercream all over. I'm going to cover as much of it as I can and being careful not to tear the cake. Now that I'm done frosting it, it's time to decorate it. I decorated the Yule log by sprinkling powdered sugar all over it to resemble snow, and then I added a couple of sprigs of rosemary, fresh, and then I had taken some of these fresh cranberries and washed them and rinsed them and then I rolled them around in some granulated sugar to give it a frosty effect, and added that to the rosemary, and I was done. This cake did have several steps to it, but it wasn't hard at all. My family really enjoyed it, and I hope that you will try to make it and enjoy it as well. And I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching my video. Please like and subscribe.